Hi, it's Lauralee, excited to be talking to you today about a topic I've recently become kind of obsessed with, and that is how people have used the metaverse to literally heal their bodies and change how their brains are wired to help them achieve amazing things. Now, this may come as a bit of a surprise, as most of the recent news about the metaverse has been about how it's turning us all into mindless drones. And while that's a possible outcome, I thought we'd take a look on the brighter side of the multiverse today instead. Before we get into it, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Next week, we're talking about how NFTs will change the Super Bowl, and you don't want to miss out on that. Now, YouTube and the internet in general is kind of awash in self-help and personal development content that can all be very woo. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with some quality self-help content, but that is not what I'm here talking about today. Today, we are looking at research-based, measurable effects that happen to people in the metaverse and how those outcomes can be replicated either by you at home or in a clinical setting. I'd say that this video is 90% science and 10% my opinion and speculation. I will leave the woo to the woo experts. First, let's recap. What is the metaverse? The metaverse is a catch-all term to describe the blending of real and digital spaces. It encompasses augmented, mixed, and virtual reality. And right now, most people access the metaverse through phones, but ultimately we will use a headset of some sort, likely a streamlined version of Oculus, Magically, HoloLens, a device like that. If you want a full rundown on the metaverse, check out this video right here. Now, as a builder of the metaverse, I spend a lot of time in a headset and in front of a computer, and pretty early on I started to wonder if this kind of extreme screen time was going to be bad for me. I have a gene that makes me susceptible to macular degeneration, so I'm naturally very concerned about my eye health. I've also wondered if being immersed in these very rich and detailed virtual experiences could affect or change how my brain makes neural connections and possibly shorten my already quite short attention span. And it turns out that a lot of people, especially parents and neuroscientists, wondered the same thing, and the early findings are actually pretty shocking. Some of the common negative effects of being in the metaverse range from motion sickness, which you may have heard of already, and eye strain, to things that are more severe like seizures and permanent myopia or short-sightedness. And that doesn't even take into account the mental health related side effects of spending long periods of time in a world where everyone is a perfect avatar. But it's not all bad, and that is what today's video is all about. Research has also found that even though current virtual and augmented simulations aren't hyper realistic, they are real enough that you can actually make neural connections after being in VR. This rewiring process is called neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is highly researched and something that we can measure with brain scans. And it's actually an ability you have for your entire life. Your brain is continually making new connections between brain cells and enforcing ones that you use all the time, and then consequently also pruning connections that you don't use very often. And neuroplasticity comes into play especially if you injure your brain or body. So for example, if you hurt your knee skiing, or if you suffered a stroke that damaged part of the motor cortex of your brain that controls your leg, following that injury, you may have muscle weakness, or maybe your leg is completely paralyzed. When you're recovering, your doctor will likely send you to physical therapy, where you do exercises in a physical therapy gym to help rebuild muscle strength. And if you've had a stroke, you also have to train your brain to grow new neurons around the damaged area so that you can regain control of your leg. Now, anyone who has been through physical therapy, even if it was for, a minor accident, will tell you that it is really hard. It's really boring and it can be really demoralizing. But it turns out that there is a growing body of evidence that if you put someone in a VR experience and then get them to do the same practical exercises, but connected to a meaningful immersive experience, basically we're putting them in a video game that is also physical therapy, they can heal themselves much faster and more effectively. Their brain will, from that VR experience, grow neurons around the damaged area and allow that person to maybe have more mobility, walk again, or regain strength. There are a couple of companies out there leveraging augmented and virtual reality to trick your brain into jump-starting this process of neuroplasticity to make new neural connections already. And you can go Google them. No, just kidding, of course. Of course, we're gonna go into them. So one of those companies is a Texas-based startup called Neuro Rehab VR. Full disclosure, when I found out that all of this was real and supported by neuroscience, I was so excited that I actually started working with this startup. This may be a little bit biased how awesome I think they are. And they have set up VR physical therapy simulations in clinics and hospitals all over the US. And one of the reasons I love working with them is that it is so cool to see a company that is literally changing lives with VR. They are working on having a VR app that you can use at home as well. So if you do need physical therapy or if you're recovering from a sports injury, it will be super accessible. All of my Americans out there, we all know that we need more affordable and accessible healthcare in this country. Now, there are a lot of other companies out there using the metaverse to help make your brain better, and some of my favorites are Healium, which has an immersive app to help you meditate and train your brain to stay in a meditative state longer. Fundamental VR has an augmented and virtual reality app to help train surgeons to do complex operations and procedures, so they already have the muscle memory and experience when they go into do an operation for the first time. And then the last one I will mention is OxfordVR, which helps patients overcome fears and phobias in as little as 2 hours, which is amazing. Getting to the outer reaches of VR and neuroscience has kind of been my latest obsession, or at least the core of my latest obsession. And it's a space that I'm watching closely and that I really want to invest in, so I thought it might be of interest to you all as well. So what I'm talking about here is the ability for metaverse technologies, so augmented, mixed, and virtual reality, to change thought patterns or mindset and help people achieve goals faster. It's essentially personal growth on demand. And with neuroplasticity, goals don't have to be physical therapy or strength related like what we see with neuro rehab. We're also talking about helping people rewire their brains to help them get a dream job, find a romantic partner, start a company, accrue wealth, reach financial freedom, lose weight, all of these elements that the self-help industry has generated billions of dollars trying to sell. What I've really been looking at here is if we can use VR to apply the principles of neuroplasticity, which we already know works, to achieve these other type of goals. My opinion is not really worth much, so let's look at what does the science have to say. And right now, neuroscience research tells us that the answer is this can probably happen. So the current research shows that people who are master meditators, they can focus themselves into a particular state where they produce brain waves that allow them to rewire their neural circuitry with a combination of thought and emotion. So no one's going in there with like a scalpel and an electrode and like poking at them. They're doing all of this within their own brain. And that is amazing in and of itself. And if you've ever heard of things like law of attraction or manifestation, this is what those practices are trying to tap into and achieve, but I think they often fall short of actually being able to do that. And that's because those type of activities on their own aren't enough to trigger a physical or chemical change in the brain. But if there is an option to get a $29.99 VR app from the App Store that does induce that emotional response and brainwave pattern that I can use once a day to tune up my thought patterns and allow me to take action in such a way that I'm super successful, yeah, I'm gonna do that. And it sounds a lot more obtainable than spending 10 years learning how to become a super meditator. I will leave a link to some peer-reviewed research that talks about this down below, and while no such app currently exists that allows you to do that, the science is there to support it. So it is possible, which is crazy to me, but like also really exciting. If you are looking to replicate this at home, then simply going into a VR experience of a mansion in the Hollywood Hills isn't going to magically manifest you that house in real life. Technology is good, but it's not that good, at least not yet. There's a lot more to it than that. So going back to my story at the beginning where I was worried that the metaverse might be bad for my health, and it could be, but it looks like it can be amazing for your brain too if used properly. And given how much the metaverse is poised to take over our lives, even though it may seem like an optional, nice to have feature, I think it's something we should really push for to be part of the foundation of the metaverse. It would be like if we implemented a feature to let you know when a photo has been photoshopped on Instagram from the start. It would completely change the experience on that app. All that to say, it's a fascinating space. I'd love to work on some tech at this particular intersection, so hopefully I'll have some more insights on this in the future. That's all for this video. Thanks for sticking around to the end. I hope this helped you understand the metaverse that 1% more. It was a little bit different kind of video this week, so please let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Don't forget to subscribe and keep living your legacy. We will see you next time. Bye.